Good morning, afternoon, or evening from whenever or wherever you are watching this video from. I am Jack Adamus, and I'm back with a new show where I'm going to go over the controversial VAR decisions so far this season. And we are only in game week 3, we've had some very controversial VAR calls in the Premier League, which is supposedly the best league in the world, like we shower every weekend on a regular basis. So surely the officiating needs to be on the same type of level. So I am going to start with this video by breaking down each VAR controversial call so far this season. We start with game week 1, where we had a controversial call for a James Tarkowski handball in the Leeds versus Everton match. Now, this call is 50-50, and some people will be saying it was a handball, some won't. But what we have to learn here is that the referee on the pitch did not give it at the time. The linesman did, who was about 35 yards away, and it took 7 seconds between the point of contact with the ball and the arm to the referee giving the decision. James Tarkowski did say in his post-match interview that he did ask referee Chris Kavanagh on the day, "Do you think it's a penalty?" To which he replied no. So the big question is here is, why did he give it, and why did he not ask VAR to go have another look at the monitor? In terms of the game, it was a fair result, as Leeds deserved to win the game on the day, but in the fashion they did win, I don't agree with it, as I believe that should not have been a penalty. Sticking with game week 1, we had another controversial call in the Chelsea versus Crystal Palace game, as Eze's free kick was ruled out. This is a crazy one, as Eze's free kick was ruled out for Mark Guéhi not being at least 1 metre away from the Chelsea wall. But this is a rule that came into football 6 years ago, but no one had ever heard of before this game has started. Which makes this VAR call very controversial, as the referee did get sent to the monitor firstly to see if it was a possible foul, which it clearly wasn't, and then they came out and said that the VAR can't get involved and changed the original decision of this rule, so they shouldn't have got involved at all. This for me is personally a sign of big club biasness, and it is definitely an inconsistency in the level of refereeing in the Premier League, as just 7 months ago on this exact same pitch at Stamford Bridge, Reece James scored a free kick against Bournemouth in exactly the same fashion, but that goal was allowed to stand and play continued. Also, in that Chelsea versus Bournemouth game, Rob Jones was the official referee for that match, which will become very relevant towards the end of this video. In my opinion, in the letter of the law, yes, the goal should have been disallowed, which is very unfair, but the only thing is the inconsistency here, because Reece James's one was allowed to stand 7 months earlier, so it just goes to show you inconsistencies in the level of refereeing in the Premier League. Another call which is subjective is the second handball given against Everton so far this season, as Dewsbury Hall was deemed to handball the ball in the penalty box against Brighton after Minter's shot. The referee did give it on the day, Stuart Atwill, the linesman didn't, but the linesman did have the better view in my opinion. Yes, his arm was slightly stretched out, and yes, it did hit his arm, but in moving his body to block the shot, his body is not in an unnatural position, and you've got to think Minter's shot is going about 70 miles per hour, and he is only 3 yards away. Luckily for Everton though, this decision didn't affect the outcome of the game, but in my personal opinion, this is the second handball given against Everton this season, which shouldn't have been given. Staying in game week 2, we have 2 massive calls in this match, as Fulham hosted Manchester United. Firstly, we have a penalty that was given to Manchester United for a Calvin Bassey foul on Mason Mount, and as a standalone incident, yes, Calvin Bassey does foul Mason Mount, but no Man United player, including Mason Mount himself, even appealed for a penalty, and Luke Shaw is doing the exact same thing to Muniz. So why was the foul given to Manchester United and not a foul given to Luke Shaw on Muniz? As when you do watch it, Rodrigo Muniz does actually appeal for the foul, whereas Mason Mount doesn't, and I don't want to start any conspiracy theories, but this does seem like another sign of big club biasness in the Premier League, as Chris Kavanagh did give the penalty, and not the foul, but justice was served as Bruno Fernandes did miss the penalty. Now we move on to part 2 of the same match, when Lenny Yoro scores from a corner where he clearly pushes Calvin Bassey in the back, but no foul was given as he threw him off balance by doing so, and then he didn't make full contact with the header, leading to an own goal for Man United to take the lead. Now you could say, and I can't argue with you, that Calvin Bassey does need to be stronger here, but as you are ready to jump, even the slightest nudge will throw you off, and he clearly puts both hands into his back. Lenny Yoro puts both his hands into Calvin Bassey's back, throwing him off balance, throwing him off his equilibrium, and it's just another sign of inconsistencies in the Premier League, as if you give a foul for Mason Mount for the penalty, you surely have to give a foul for this one too. This, in my opinion, is another example of inconsistencies from officiating in the Premier League, as you either give both of them a foul or none of them a foul, and this is another farcical moment in the Premier League. Moving on to game week 3 just this weekend, where we had one of the most controversial moments in VAR in the Premier League, where it involved Chelsea and Fulham. Well, this is probably one of the worst VAR and officiating since VAR has been brought into the Premier League, and there was 3 massive talking points in this game, but we will start with the Josh King disallowed goal. So for those who have been living under a rock for the last week, Fulham are playing some great counter-attacking football. The ball goes to Rodrigo Muniz. He does the roulette skill. Chalobah goes in to tackle Muniz. Muniz then lands on Chalobah's foot. The referee is 10 yards away, and even on mic'd up, he says, "Play on, both players are going in for the challenge. That's not a foul for me." Now, for some reason, as I've heard nobody other than Enzo Maresca, the Chelsea manager, say it's a foul. It's a ridiculous decision, but Michael Salisbury sends Rob Jones over to the monitor to watch it again. But this is where referees need to grow a pair, and they need to stick to their original decision. If they don't think it's a foul at that moment, don't be led away. Something as well that has always bugged me, is going a little bit off topic, but why do, when they send the referee over to the VAR monitor, do they always have a still image as soon as they get there, and it looks like the worst foul ever? That has always bugged me, but like I said, this is a ridiculous decision, as Rodrigo Muniz can't put his foot anywhere else apart from put it down. That's all he can do. The only other thing he can do is cut his leg off, which obviously he doesn't want to do. And the worst thing about this is it stopped an 18-year-old from getting his first goal for the club. My verdict for this one is this is one of the worst VAR calls in Premier League history, and I'd be very surprised if a lot of you disagreed. The second talking point of this match was that Chelsea scored their first goal in the 9th minute of injury time in the first half, although there was only 8 minutes added on. Now, I don't know why the referee added on some more time. Maybe somebody went down injured and then he carried it on there. I don't know, but this one is subjective, so I won't go too much detail into this one. But what I will say is I have seen referees blow before the corner is taken before in other matches. And the last talking point in this match was the fact that Chelsea were given a penalty when Sessegnon was deemed to handball it. Yes, Sessegnon did handball it. Yes, it is a penalty. But only a few seconds before this, João Pedro handballed the ball in the penalty area, but there was no foul given. And also, Saicedo does foul Iwobi in a very similar way to Chalobah got fouled by Muniz. So why was this not given for Fulham? This is another sign of big club biasness and inconsistencies in the Premier League and their officiating, in my personal opinion. And then the PGMOL come out and they say sorry, which is just a slap in the face for Fulham and other teams last season who were on the end of that apology. I don't think that apology does anything. If anything, it just adds fuel to the fire, because you're apologising and you are showing that you have weak officials in the Premier League. And the last game to have some controversial VAR calls this season is Manchester United vs Burnley, where it was a tale of 2 penalties and an offside goal. Like I said, this was a tale of 2 penalties, and the first penalty is actually signs of when VAR is good for football and when it gets involved, as Mason Mount and Kyle Walker are both running for the ball. It is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. They're both fouling each other, so therefore the penalty was overruled, which in my opinion was the correct call. The second penalty was a bit more dubious, as Anthony does pull Ahmad's shirt. It does start outside the penalty area, but it does continue into the penalty area. So what he should have done in hindsight is let go of the shirt before that he enters the box. It is a harsh decision, but this is a decision that you are allowing VAR to get involved, as he did continue to pull his shirt. So in my opinion, this was the correct decision, although it was a very harsh on Burnley. For me, the main talking point in this game, and I haven't really seen anybody be talking about it, it is the offside given to Burnley for that goal, as I've been looking at that semi-automated picture for a few days now, and I still can't see whether he's onside or offside. So I believe that the attacker should get the favour in this one, as it is not clear that he is offside, and I do think that Man United got away with one here, as I reckon that goal should have counted, and on another day, I think it could have. To round up, I just want to say I'm sick of the level of officiating and the use of VAR in the Premier League. This is supposed to be the best league in the world, and something needs to change, because the level of officiating, it is absolutely embarrassing and it is not a good look for the Premier League. So I'm going to stop there before I go off on a rant. I would like to just finish by saying have a good weekend, guys. I'll change it and flip it up and be more nice. Have a good weekend, guys, and remember, if you don't shoot, you can't score. Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.